Do you guys see that? Okay, so to start off sewing this pattern, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all of my pieces, including the lining pieces, and then I'm gonna put them right sides together, pin the upper seam, and I'm gonna stitch that upper seam. So in the next few clips, you're just gonna see me doing that process. So basically, you take your pieces, you put them right sides together, you pin the upper seam, the upper edge, and then you are going to stitch in place. Okay, so for the next part, I'm going to go ahead and just trim off that excess seam allowance on all of the pieces that I've just stitched. Now we're gonna complete a top stitch and edge stitch on each piece by just opening up the piece and then pushing the seam allowance towards the lining piece, and then we're gonna stitch about a millimeter, 1 millimeter away from the original stitch that we made. So I'm gonna do this to all the pieces. Okay, so now what you want to do is you're going to take your center front piece and your side front piece, and then you're going to spread your side front piece open to where the right side of the fabric is facing towards you. Then you're going to take your center front piece, and then you are going to pin it onto the princess seam of the side front. Make sure that you are pinning them right sides together like in the video, right? So you're just pinning them. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna fold over the other half of my center front, and then I'm going to fold over the other half of my side front. So basically I am sandwiching my center front piece in between the lining and the front of my side front piece, right? The reason why I'm doing this is because I want those seams to be hidden, and also I've noticed that sometimes when you attach a lining and you don't stitch it at the princess seams or the side seams, it has a tendency of peeking like peeking through or peeking up when you're wearing it. And so I did this to prevent that from happening. So that's how you do that. So basically for the next couple of pieces, you're just going to see me repeat the same process where I'm just going to go in like with this piece. The center front is sandwiched between the side front, and then I'm going to stitch that seam. Then in my next piece, I'm going to sandwich the side front seam into the side back piece, and you're going to just see me continue the same process.
You're really trying. Stay up at night, fighting with my head and on my mind. Whatever I call me, whatever I call me, whatever I call me, whatever you call me. Lord, I'm separated. I'm living life for you. I lay my life down at your feet for your use. Come purify my heart, clean out my mind, so I can live a life that's pleasing to you, a life that is poured out for you. All I wanna do is bring you glory and honor.
Okay, so after stitching that piece, you're gonna notice that when I turn it right sides out, the seam is hidden on the inside, and I've got that nice clean finish. So what I'm going to do is around the bust, there's this weird bubbling thing that's happening. I'm going to go ahead and just take my scissors and just clip into that curve, because I want it to rest like smoothly. Yeah, so we're going to do that. So what I did for the center front and the side front, I'm repeating the same process for that. So all of your seams are going to have notches, so just make sure that you are matching your notches. So I'm going ahead and just spreading my side back piece open, and then I'm sandwiching my side front, that side front seam, I'm sandwiching it in between those two pieces. Then I'm going to stitch that seam. Then I'm going to repeat the same process for the center back, and then I'm going to do the other side.
and honor. It's all for you, none of me. It's more of you, less of me. All for your kingdom, all for your glory. He must become greater, so I become lesser. He must become greater, so I become lesser. He must become
Okay, so for this part on your pattern, you're gonna see these little tiny little circles. Those are your eyelet holes where you will place your eyelets if you're gonna use eyelets. However, I'm gonna be doing loops because I had run out of eyelets at this point and I could not find any eyelets. I couldn't find eyelets that were the exact size of my eyelet tool, so I had to just improvise and add in loops. But if you want to if you want to do what I'm doing, so you're gonna take your Ridgeline boning and then you're going to measure how much of it that you need, like the length that you need of it. Then where you were going to originally place your eyelets, you just make marks, and that's when you're gonna place your loops. Now let's say you are going to use eyelets. I have other videos on my channel where I do where I'm sewing corsets and stuff, so you'll see how I do the center back. So I'll just link another video in the description for you to see how I do the eyelets when I'm working with other corsets. But for this top, I just went ahead and used the loops. So what I did was I took my fabric and then I just made like a little strap, a skinny strap, and then I'm going to stitch the loops onto my Ridgeline boning, and it's going to look like this when I'm done, right? So when I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and stitch my Ridgeline boning, my loops, on the right side of my of the center back, sorry, of the center back. And as you can see, so my loops are facing towards the piece, and they're not facing towards the center back, because when you cover them up, or when you do the other side, you don't want them to be stuck on the inside. You want them to be peeking out on the outside. So you need to make sure that the loops are facing towards your piece. Just make sure that the placement is exactly as it is like in the video. So I'm gonna apologize for this next part because I did not notice that I was out of frame, you know. So that's what it's going to look like. So when you fold it in, you're gonna notice that, sorry, when you fold it in, you need to notice that it is not, the loops are not going into the seam allowance, that they peek out. Yeah, so I'm doing the same thing for the other side. So for this part, I apologize for this part because I did not notice that I was out of frame. So what I did was I just basically took the lining and I folded it over to basically stitch the center back seam to where the boning, the Ridgeline boning and the loops are on the inside, and then I flipped it inside out because of how very not loose, the Ridgeline boning is not that strong, so it was easy for me to just flip it out, and that's how I ended up having my loops look like that. So I am really sorry for that part. I know that was not a good explanation, but yeah. So basically you want to make sure that your Ridgeline boning is in between those two, is sandwiched in between the two pieces. And then what I do is I just do a top stitch that's about 1 millimeter away from the center back seam. And then yeah, so that's the end of that. I'm going to repeat the same process for the other side.
I'm your Valentino, slip me on and take me home. Take me home. Let me pull you closer, spending too much time alone. I can't stop the feeling in my heart. Oh, oh, oh. I can't stop the feeling once it starts. Oh, oh, oh. So if you wanna run away with me, I'll take you back in my time machine, and we can dance, 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 dance. We can dance again, and we can dance, 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 dance. We can dance again. Be my one-shot free throw, I'll sink it every time. Dripping like sands in Puerto Rico, best night of our lives. Big bully at casino, hit the jackpot with me by your side. Wherever you wanna go, go, we can dance like it's 99. I can't stop the feeling in my heart. Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause once it starts, we can dance, 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 dance. We can dance again, and we can dance, 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 dance. We can dance again, and we can, and we can, we can dance again, and we can dance, 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 dance. We can dance again. Disco ball eyes, technicolor lights. Dreamers never die. We stop time.
So for my boning, I'm using a boning that's 6 millimeters wide. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch the boning channels. And how you do that is just by simply measuring how wide your boning is going to be, and then stitching that measurement plus 1 millimeter away from the original seam that we stitched. So right now, how wide that is about 7 millimeters. So you're going to do that for all the places where you're going to place your boning. So those are your princess seams, and then your side seams, and then the seam that connects the center back to the side back piece. Alrighty, you guys. So now for this next part, I'm going to go ahead and measure my boning, how much boning I need. But then I'm also going to minus the seam allowance that's at the lower edge. So make sure that you use your pattern piece to calculate how much seam allowance you need at the lower edge. And so I'm going to go ahead and take the sanding paper, and I'm just sanding the edge of my boning to soften the corners, because if those corners are too sharp, they are going to pierce through the fabric and that boning is going to come out, and obviously we don't want that. So just go ahead and just go ahead and smoothen out the corners, the little corners, yeah, and then slide the boning in. Okay, so after you've put your boning in, what you want to do is you're just going to go ahead and stitch that lower edge. The reason why we're doing this is we don't want the boning to slide out while we're busy with other things. So just go ahead and like stitch that lower edge, close the little boning channels, and then we are going to trim off the excess seam allowance, and then we're going to then attach our binding. So to finish off, we are going to attach our binding. I highly recommend just searching on YouTube a video that shows you in detail how to attach, a binding to a hemline. But we're going to go ahead and attach our binding. And then after attaching our binding, we are basically done with this pattern. You're going to get a ribbon and just lace up your corset or your bustier however you want to lace it up. And then yeah, that's the end of the tutorial. So when I was attaching my binding, like I didn't even notice that my piece was like gathering or whatever, so I just stretched it out a little, but yeah.
Don't call me cause you wanna chat, yeah. I'll save the hate I made you crave. My body and my mind, I'm gonna keep it to myself, yeah, yeah. Stay up at night, fighting with my head and my mind. I can see that you're really trying. Stay up at night, fighting with my head and on my mind.